Good evening. It's a little bit before 9 p.m. Central Mountain Time, September 13th, 2020. Now, there's this thing I've been seeing on Netflix. Not cuties. This social dilemma thing. And apparently, it's supposed to be like this big anti-social media, boo, Facebook, blah blah blah, bad Twitter. Documentary. I hadn't seen it, and I don't know if I will see it anytime soon. And they say a lot of people who were involved in the social media platforms they're interviewed, and I think I just want to say that I saw Mark Zuckerberg on CBS Morning News about 10 days ago, and old Marky Zuck isn't looking too happy. I think he's starting to realize that he is Dr. Victor Frankenstein, and he has created a monster that is kind of beyond his control. And I don't really think we should be blaming Zook and all of them for some of the things. I do think they should shoulder a lot of the blame for a lot of other things. They're using the same defense that the tobacco company and the gun companies have used. Is we produce a product, and we're not telling you how to use it, and here it is. But here's what we intend for you to use it. But we're going to spend millions and millions on lobbyists so we can have our company still branded a tech company, because that's what Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and YouTube, they're all saying we're just a tech company. We're just providing people a format for something, and ooh, hell's bells, Margaret. We didn't know they were going to say that, but we'll look at what they said and go from there. And I've been zooked. A lot of people have been zooked. And I think Mark is finally realizing that he has been Johnny come lately. And, I used to work in the media. I used to work for a newspaper, and we used to, the newspaper companies, I worked for two newspaper companies, one major newspaper company, I'll just say the CNHI, and another one was CPI. And it was partially owned by one of the Waltons. They pretty much folded. It doesn't exist anymore. About 5 years ago, they pretty much did a lot of things, and I'm not going to say here because I'm pretty sure there's a class action lawsuit being put together out there, and if anyone's out there listening, hey, drop me a line. But anyway, let me go to the first one. I used to work for a newspaper company in Southwest Georgia, America's Times Recorder, and they experimented with the internet by teasing stories. Well, first and foremost, you can't tease a story online because it's Sunday today, people getting up on a weekend or sitting down at the office or wherever, going to the web page to look at the top news stories. They want to see the news stories. They don't want to see two paragraphs and say, oh, well, I got to get out and I got to go down to the store and I got to stand in line and I got to buy this newspaper. Well, that's pointless. And a lot of newspaper companies came late to the party. I think Judd Apatow, when he was doing Freaks and Geeks over 20 years ago, he said that NBC wasn't working with him because they were acting like the internet didn't exist, and he felt that if they got more internet exposure, more people would have tuned in. That's debatable, and I agree with Judd there somewhat. I didn't really like Freaks and Geeks, but to each his own. I preferred his other show, Undeclared. But getting back to this whole thing about the social media. When I went to go work for CPI, their website was terrible, and you actually had to delete stories because if you didn't, it would bump the breaking stories down so far down it would literally bury them. So if train derailment, double murder, missing child, silver alert, amber alert, that wasn't the top story. It was something about, well, the Rose Garden has their annual um, quilt festival. No one cares about that. So, and they went through about 2 or 3 formats before they finally got it right. And by the time they finally got it right, was about 8 years ago. Far too many years after I've been working there. It should have been out of the canon, done with in 2008. And I think that's probably because a lot of quote unquote seasoned journalists, the old type with suspenders and beard and glasses, they were still relying on the notion that people would want to read the newspapers. And I feel that, in a way, that's what people want to see when it comes to getting your wedding announcements, birth announcements, obituaries, perfect attendance, whatever in there. But if it's a top story, I don't agree with Matt Drudge, but I do think the Graduate Report set the bar for how you're supposed to handle online news. And a lot of people criticize Matt when they said, you're the editor and the writer. How are you going to check yourself? And that I will give Matt some credit. He is a very conservative reporter. I don't really want to use that term, but he did do some good. But he has done a lot of bad things, and a lot of online websites, blogs, and the rush to get information out without double checking it, without confirming it. I think I once heard a newspaper colleague say, "You got to make every phone call. If you feel you need to make if you made 3 phone calls, you need to make a 4th phone call. Make the 4th phone call, because the 4th phone call might save your butt." And I think that's what's happening with the tech companies like Twitter, Facebook. They've not made that other phone call, and now they're trying to cover their butt after everything's gone downhill. I'm pretty sure Zook has basically feels that he is going to more or less be blamed for the election of Donald Trump. I think mostly people on Facebook, Twitter especially, could have solved this problem 5 years ago. And I think the shit sandwich with the election of Donald Trump, I think the social media companies do have to take a bigger bite. And but I wonder. I hadn't seen the documentary, but I wonder, why who do they point the finger at? Us? I did a column one time when people at Walmart.com was very popular, maybe about a little over 10 years ago, and I kept thinking, well, who are these people? I mean, you see them out around town, and I know they seem to congregate more in mass groups at Walmart, but they're like that every time. So, you can't really say Walmart's bad because they're going to CVS, they're going to Walgreens, they're going to Piggly Wiggly, they're going to Target, but I think they generally congregate more at Walmart because Walmart has cheaper prices, and you feel a little bit relaxed, I guess, or at home at Walmart. But going back to, people have been acting like this for years, and it wasn't the invention of MySpace, it wasn't the invention of Facebook, Twitter that did it. I think people just had to have that outlet. And personally, I think it's good and bad. I think it's bad because there's a lot of information that's being spread and people are taking it too wrong, the QAnon, and I hardly ever go on Reddit, so, uh, but there is just so much disinformation, misinformation. That is what I think they needed to control, first off. Secondly, I do think they should have went after a lot of the misogyny, a lot of the racism, a lot of the bigotry that was almost immediately there from the start. And in a way, it's been kind of good because you know who these people are. And I think that's good for people who have grown up around people, they've not known their thoughts. I wouldn't really say it's political. I think it's more or less their personal beliefs about other people. And it's good knowing that now for a lot of people, especially when they're in the 20s and 30s or in the teens, because you're not getting a part of this clique or social club or church or community function or whatever without knowing the people there and how they feel. And I think that what happens is, I think this, for centuries, for decades, people have been coming into these organizations with a feeling that they need to belong, and they're willing to look past racism, sexism, misogyny, and until it was too late, they couldn't get out. And I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying that now it's more important, I think, to be proactive. And I think if people are seeing the intolerance, if seeing the prejudice and people around them, they're not associating with them. And I think that's good. I think maybe certain people are not so quick to get relationships, platonic relationships, romantic relationships with others without, seeing how people behave. And of course, people online, they lie, they present themselves in a certain way they're not. I've often thought that religion, especially Christianity, and this is not a knock against any good-hearted Christian people out there, but I do think that a lot more people are far more willing to say they're willing to behave online like they're Christians, but not Christians in real life. I don't know what the flying crap prayer warriors means. I think a lot of people do it to get attention. Well, not a lot of people, but we think some people do it for attention. I don't think your life should be that messed up, and if it is, I don't think you should be online. If you need someone to talk to, I think that's what texting, that's what instant messages, DMs, phone calls are for. And that's another thing, it's amazing that just 50 years ago, or 50, 60, 70 years ago, phone calls were considered bad. Why can't someone write a letter? Why can't someone come by and talk? I don't want to be on the phone for 50 minutes, and I definitely don't want to be on the phone for 50 minutes. I hate being on the phone talking to someone for 50 minutes. I have arthritis in my hands. I can't handle a phone for 50 minutes, but yet other people act like if you send them a text message or email these days, it's offensive. And human communication existed for centuries through letters. And now, writings, and now people are acting like, well, I want you to call me every week. Well, we all know who these people are, so. But I do think I think Zuck thinks and probably knows that Facebook is kind of in its last days, and I think a lot of people, younger people, a lot older people, are turning away from it. I think Instagram is kind of what people want now, is just showing pictures of things, which is what I think Facebook and MySpace was originally supposed to be before they started letting people comment, make post, but I really don't see it lasting more than 5-10 years. So, and I definitely think if this election doesn't uh, go the way a lot of people want it to go, uh, you're probably going to see drastic changes. And this has nothing to do with what that idiot Roger Stone says. He's full of shit. And I got something I'm going to say about him later. But and I also think it's, in closing, I think it's kind of funny that, Netflix is promoting this. But if you go on Netflix, they're social media too. They're you're seeing things through word of mouth, because after you watch something, they say, "Well, do you like it? Do you not like it?" And people watch stuff. Well, it's trending. Well, a lot of people are watching this. Well, I might watch it myself. So I think it's kind of ironic that they're saying social media is bad, but they're a social media platform themselves. So I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it and come back on here later with a post about what I think about it. So have a good evening, and thanks for listening. Good night.